Welcome to Tiny Bear. I'm Damo. Let me show you around. Come with me. Alrighty guys, what you should have is this box. Inside this box, you should have 5 little samples of some gin and some brew, 2 bottles of tonic, a bag of garnishes, some coasters, and probably how you found this tour in the first place by actually reading the postcard. So that's what you should have in your box. Now, we're gonna do these in order of Doctor. We're gonna do the Doctor first, then we're gonna do the Gypsy, then we're gonna do the Sailor, then you're gonna do one of the 2 barrel ages, and then we're gonna finish with the dessert, which is the brew. And you've got 2 tonics. Alrighty, the only things you should really need, bottle opener, otherwise you're gonna find it hard to get into your tonics, and probably some ice. That's BYO. Let's get into it. We're gonna start with the Doctor. So what I want you to do is I want you to crack open the little bottle of the Doctor and pour yourself as much or as little as you want to drink. Now, keep in mind, if you're doing this solo by yourself with someone on Zoom on the other end, if you do all 5 drinks and you do all 50 mils, you're doing about 9.5 to 10 standard drinks. Not recommended. It's recommended to share, but in saying that, do as much or as little as you want. So we're gonna start with the Doctor, as I said, pour a little bit in, pour it in your glass. You can use whatever glass you want. You can use a mug, you can use a beer glass, you can use whatever, it actually doesn't matter, it's up to you. Pour a little bit in, have a smell. Hopefully you're picking up very, very subtle florals from the hibiscus that's in there. And you might also be picking up a bit of the fresh herbs because there's fresh dill, basil, Vietnamese mint, and sage in there as well. If you're feeling game, have a sip of it straight. You don't have to though, do what works for you. Nice. As soon as I drink it straight, I always seem to pick up the fresh Vietnamese mint and the cinnamon on the finish. It kind of tastes like a woody aftertone to me, but it's delicious. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make ourselves a gin and tonic. We've given you 2 tonics. We've given you a number 8 and we've given you a light. We're gonna start with the number 8 for this one. So get your bottle opener, crack it open, pour yourself a gin and tonic. Now, I like to do about 2 parts tonic to 1 part gin. That's my ratio I like to do, but if you don't like tonic, you can do less, or you want more tonic, you can add more. But keep in mind, we've only given you these 2 to hopefully get through the 4 gins. But yeah, so you're gonna pour yourself a bit of tonic in there, using the number 8, and then from your little goodies bag of garnishes, you're gonna get out some of the dehydrated apple. You're gonna throw that in your drink. You've made yourself a really, really simple gin and tonic with the Doctor. So the ingredients in this one, there's heaps of juniper berries, heaps of coriander seed, fresh dill, basil, and Vietnamese mint. There's some licorice root, which gives it a slight aniseedy flavor. And then you've got your cinnamon, which will give you like a woody finish on the end of this one. There is also hibiscus. What hibiscus is, when you've added the tonic's gonna aerate the drink and it's gonna bring more of the hibiscus out, and you're gonna pick up a slight floral smell on it once you've added your tonic to it. Cheers, let's have a drink. Nice. Now if you want, enjoy your drink. We're gonna take you on a bit of a tour. Alrighty, the first step in our gin production is fermentation, and it's the first of 3 steps. Basically, we need to create the alcohol, or the wine is what I'm gonna call it. What we essentially do is in these big stainless tanks or in these white tanks here, we mix together 4 ingredients. We mix together sugar, water, kale, and yeast. The 2 important ingredients in this for fermentation is the sugar and the yeast. Basically, your yeast eat sugar, and they convert that to ethanol, which is the alcohol that we all love, and they have a byproduct of carbon dioxide, which you can see in the bubbling of the fermentation. So we mix those 2 together with the water, But what they're actually lacking is, if we just mix that, is they're actually lacking nutrition, which is where the kale comes in for us at Tiny Vet. Yeast need nutrition to make clean alcohol. So what we actually do is we get fresh kale, we blend it up, throw it into the ferments, and what it does is it keeps our yeast healthy. The reason we want to keep them healthy is this process doesn't happen overnight. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks depending on the temperature. And what the yeast are doing is they're basically eating all that sugar, which is their food source, converting it to ethanol, and we want them to be stress-free. The less stressed they are, the better the alcohol it is that they actually make. So that's what's actually happening. So as I said, we mix these 4 ingredients, we throw them in these fermenters, we let them sit for about 2-3 weeks. And at the end of that process, we have about an 8% wine. We call it wine because it's basically an alcoholic soup. And then once that's done, we actually turn that wine into vodka, which we're going to talk about after you have your next drink. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to my favorite, which is the Gypsy. And the reason it's my favorite is it is a complete experience of the senses. It's packed full of aroma, it's packed full of spice, it's packed full of flavor, and it's so versatile. So what you want to do, open your Gypsy. Have a smell, tip some in your glass. As I said, pour as much or as little as you want. It's up to you. Have a smell, and have a sip. Now, you'll notice this gin is completely different to the first one you've just had. Subtlety has gone out the window with this one because this one is in your face. It's packed full of spices. So there's 4 different types of peppers in there. There's black peppercorns, there's Szechuan peppers, there's grains of paradise, there's whole pimentos. On top of those peppers, there's cardamom, clove, cumin, ginger. So there's a lot of big, in-your-face, punchy flavors. But to balance out those big spices, we've actually put in there some lemon, some lime, and some cucumber. And what they'll do is they'll actually soften the heat from those spices and bring out more of the flavor in those spices. Now, when it comes to making a gin and tonic, you can use anything in your bag that you want to put into this. The only thing I'm gonna tell you to not use is the orange and clove, because we're saving that one for later, okay? So you may wanna put in some grapefruit, you may wanna put in some lemon, you may wanna go a bit crazy and put in some capsicum. I love it with capsicum. I'm actually gonna put capsicum in mine. Or you may wanna put in it some juniper berries. Now, juniper berries are these little blue purpley berries you'll have in your bag. And that's actually what makes something gin. Without it, it's just vodka. And if you're feeling brave, eat one. I love eating them. You're just like, oh wow, I'm eating gin. But they're also a really, really good garnish in your gin and tonics as well. So I'm gonna put in some juniper berries and I'm gonna put in my capsicum because I wanna bring out that juniper flavor, but I also wanna play with that spice a little bit. Now, when it comes to your tonics, doesn't matter which tonic you want to use, doesn't matter what tonic you use for this gin. If you want it a little bit sweeter, continue with the number 8 tonic. If you want it a little bit drier or a little bit lower sugar, use the light tonic. I'm gonna continue with the number 8, because that's what I want. And as I said, I roughly 2 parts tonic to 1 part gin. Pour it in, you've got yourself a really, really, really easy gin and tonic. The more tonic you add, you're gonna bring out more and more of that lemon and lime. Lemon and lime are also awesome garnishes in this gin. A really, really awesome garnish that we couldn't put in these little bags and send out to you is cucumber. So if you've got some cucumber, you're probably gonna have some of that left. I actually recommend you do a gin and tonic with cucumber in it because it is super drinkable, it's super fresh, and it's super crisp. But in saying that, you can put whatever you really want in this gin. And you can't go wrong. Another way you can drink it is with ginger beer and a little bit of jalapeno juice and a little bit of lime juice. That's another way you can drink it. But it's super, super versatile. Yeah, so that's the Gypsy. Let's go and talk about how we actually make this bad boy.
Hey guys, Sal here. We're going to talk to you about distillation. This is basically how we take the kale wine that Damo talked to you about, and we're going to turn it into vodka, which is also known as a neutral spirit or base spirit. So we're going to use the still here. The still basically works on the principle of boiling points. So we know that water, for example, boils at 100 degrees. We know that ethanol boils at 78 degrees. Now that's the good stuff, that's the good spirit, and that's what we want to drink. So we take the kale wine, we pop it into the boiler here. It's going to start boiling, and basically the kale wine has inside of it a bunch of different molecules. Some of those are ethanol, that's the good stuff. Some of those are methanol, which is bad. There's acetone, octanol, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So we're going to start boiling, and at a certain point, things like methanol, they have a much lower boiling point. They're going to start to turn from a liquid to a gas. They're going to start to rise up the column, and then at a certain point, they're going to hit one of these plates. Now, what the plates do is they basically provide a metal surface for that molecule to then become a little bit cooler, and it's going to turn back into a liquid, so it drips back down. Now, of course, this is all still heating, so what happens is that little molecule is going to go from liquid to gas, liquid to gas, liquid to gas, all the way up this column until it reaches the very top. It's a gas vapor. It's going to come down through our line arm here, and then it hits our condenser. Now, the condenser has all of this lovely cold cooling water that flows around the outside, so it's like a jacket. And basically what that condenser does is it tells that methanol molecule, now you're cold again, you're going to turn back into a liquid. Out it comes, down through our beak here, and we collect it. Now this is all of the bad stuff. This is the methanol and acetone for the most part. So what we do is we separate it off. We've now got the hearts coming out, that's the ethanol, the good stuff that we want to keep. We then take that, and the next step, we're going to turn that into gin.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the Sailor. This is our Navy strength gin. Navy strength basically means it still ignites, it's explosive. So it means that if you were to put a match to this, it will still ignite. It's 58%, so in this little bottle, you've got 2.3 standard drinks. That's a lot of standard drinks. So if you do this one alone, yeah, just be careful is what I'm saying. It's packed full of flavors. So pour as much or as little as you like. All right, now, before we even drink this one, I'm going to give it a swirl, and you can kind of see, hopefully, you can see all the legs that are in there with this one, because it is so oily. This is basically made of, well, there's two major ingredients in this. Juniper, because it's obviously gin, and the second major ingredient is navel oranges, and we use the full orange, so we use the juice, the rind, absolutely every part of the orange for this one. What you're actually seeing sticking to the glass is all those orange oils just running down the sides. Now, if you're feeling brave, have a sip. Awesome. I love that. What I notice when I drink that is all the oils stick to the inside of my mouth. And then when they're sticking to the inside of my mouth, as I breathe out, I kind of get like that orange cooling sensation as if I'm drinking like methanol, not methanol, menthols. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the light tonic because I want a little bit lower sugar in this one because it's quite sweet because of all those orange oils. Once again, I'm just gonna add my tonic. And you'll probably notice this one more than any other kind of picks up a blue hue to it. That's because there's so much oils in this that as we add the tonic to it, all those oils come out of solution and are no longer dissolved. As you've added your tonic, have another sip. And you'll really bring out all those orange flavors. Now, as I said before, we're gonna garnish that one with our orange and clove. I'm gonna chuck that in there. That's the Sailor. Let's continue on. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna kind of move towards what I like to call my gateway between gin, to whiskey and bourbon. So it's kind of like, it's still gin, but it appeals to whiskey drinkers, it appeals to bourbon drinkers, and that's our barrel-aged gin. Now, you could have 1 or 2 varieties in your pack because this is a seasonal product and we don't always have both available. We always have one, but you may get the barrel-aged Gypsy or you may get the barrel-aged Sailor. So in this pack here, I've got the barrel-aged Gypsy. Now, basically it's exactly the same gin as that last one, as either the Gypsy or the Sailor, except we have aged them in ex Jack Daniel's barrels. What that does to the flavor is it actually changes the flavor a little bit. So in the Gypsy, it's gonna soften the spices a little bit and it's gonna add like a caramelly, smoky kind of complexity to it. And it's kind of gonna be a little bit whiskey, but it's still very much gin. I think it's awesome in things like old fashions if you're gonna make a cocktail out of it. If you've, say, got the barrel-aged Sailor, you're gonna get a similar process happening, except the orange is gonna kind of morph into kind of like a lavendery kind of flavors to it, but you're still gonna get that smoky sweetness from the barrel. Whichever one you've got, they're both delicious, and they're both different in their own way. For me, I think you're wasting this kind of drink if you're not just drinking it on ice like it's whiskey. But it's awesome in your gin and tonics. So if you're making a gin and tonic, you can throw pretty much whatever's left in your bag, whether it be the lemon, the lime, the grapefruit, the juniper berries, whatever, into your glass, and it's gonna work in a really, really easy, nice gin and tonic. Keep in mind that after this one, we're moving on to not gin, so this stuff isn't really needed, so it's up to you. But yeah, that's either the barrel-aged Gypsy or the barrel-aged Sailor. Yeah, they're delicious. Let us go through and talk about how we make this stuff.
Hi guys, so last step Sal took you through making the wine into our base spirit, and now we're up to the fun part where we turn it into gin. We do that by adding all these botanicals into our basket and letting the alcohol be flavored through the oils there. For it to be gin, it needs to be predominantly juniper. So we have lots of juniper here, and today we're making our Sailor gin. So we're getting a little bit of cardamom, some cloves, and super heavy on the oranges, and a few other little bits, and popping it into our basket here. It goes through the same steps as before. So it comes up and down the still, and we've changed it over a little bit so it runs down through here and through our basket. It's essentially like a big tea bag where we have everything, and then all the gases go through here. The alcohol binds to the oils and then comes back up and comes down and comes out at like 90%. Then we dilute it down and it will be our delicious Sailor.
Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna finish with dessert. Now, dessert means we don't need tonic, so we can put that away, or you can save that for later when you've finished the dessert and you go back to them. And I'm gonna drink this drink without tonic. Now, we're gonna use the brew. For me, the easiest way to drink this, a chunk of ice, a glass, and some brew. Crack that open, chuck it on the ice, as much or as little as you like. Let it sit for about 10 seconds and then have a sip. What this is we talked before about how we make our kale vodka. This is basically that kale vodka which we have blended with coffee. It's 22% vodka, 78% coffee. Enjoy it. It's awesome in things like espresso martinis. It's awesome in things like pouring it on ice cream or using it in tiramisu. But it is dessert. Keep in mind it is coffee. So if your body doesn't like you drinking coffee late at night, maybe save this one to put in your breakfast and have a bit of a drink in the morning, or whenever really works for you. But yeah, it's our brew. The easiest and simplest way to drink it is just on a chunk of ice. Have a sip. That's the brew, that's your dessert. Now, you're probably going, I've got a fair amount of gin left over and I've probably finished my tonics. What am I gonna do with this stuff? If you haven't finished it, there are some cocktail videos you should be able to find via the link on your card, which you found, and there's also a cocktails tab on our website. We talk about how to make things like a cucumber sour, a Negroni, a martini, an espresso martini, which a lot of people love drinking, as well as some really, really cool ideas you can actually do with the rest of your drinks. On that card as well, you'll notice that there is a discount code, which will give you 10% off on anything that you buy on the website. We just want to say a massive thanks for enjoying your tasting pack. We really, really appreciate the support. Keep in mind there's some cocktail videos you can look at. There's a discount on that card in regards to if you do want to buy something, we can get you a discount. And we hope to see you in and actually enjoy the distillery experience by coming in and saying, hey, thank you very much.